Today, we're going on an absolutely incredible biological journey. We're going to follow a blueprint that's essential for, well, the continuation of our entire species. It's a story all about production, maturation, and a very high-stakes delivery. So let's trace this journey from the very beginning. So think about this for a second. Our bodies have all these amazing systems, right? Systems for breathing, for digestion, for thinking. But which system isn't just about keeping you alive, but is designed for the survival of the species itself? Yup, you got it. It's the reproductive system. And today we're diving deep into the fascinating and pretty complex design of the human male reproductive system. Okay, so to really understand this whole journey, we first have to get a handle on the why. What is the fundamental core mission of this entire biological blueprint? Well, at the end of the day, it really boils down to one massive goal: making sure the species continues. And to pull that off, it has a few critical jobs. It's got to produce key hormones like testosterone to keep everything running. Then its main event is to make and then transport sperm. And finally, it needs a way to get that sperm out to do its job. It's all one big coordinated mission. Every epic journey has a starting point, right? Well, for a tiny sperm cell, that journey kicks off inside a highly specialized and very busy production factory. And if you look here on our map of the system, you can see exactly where that factory is. We are starting right at the foundation, the testicles. Now, the testes are serious multitaskers. They're doing two incredibly important jobs at the same time. On one hand, they are the factory floor, churning out sperm around the clock. And on the other, they're the command center, pumping out testosterone, the hormone that doesn't just run this whole system, but also affects lots of other male characteristics. And you know, a high-tech factory like this needs some pretty serious climate control. That's where the scrotum comes in. Think of it as a super smart thermostat, making sure the testicles stay at the perfect temperature for making sperm, which is actually a little cooler than the rest of the body. So once the sperm cells are made, they don't just hang around waiting. Oh no, they immediately head out on this amazing journey of maturation and transport through a whole network of tubes and ducts. So here's the basic roadmap for their trip. They're produced in the testicles, then they move right next door to the epididymis to mature. From there, they travel up the vas deferens, get mixed with some crucial fluids, and finally make their exit through the urethra. Let's take a closer look at each stop. All right, following our map, the very next stop, right after leaving the testicle, is this structure right here, called the epididymis. The epididymis is this super long, tightly coiled tube. The best way to think of it is like a boot camp for sperm. This is where the new, but still immature sperm go to get trained up. They hang out here for a few weeks and learn how to swim, a skill that is absolutely essential for the final mission. Okay, training is complete. The sperm are mature and ready to be deployed. Looking back at our map, you can see them starting their long journey up this tube called the vas deferens. This is basically the main highway out of town. The vas deferens is a muscular tube, and it uses these little contractions to push the mature sperm all the way from the epididymis up toward the final stages of their trip. But the sperm don't travel this long road alone. Along the highway, they make a few pit stops at these support stations, which are actually glands, that add some really important fluids to create the final mix we know as semen. First up are the seminal vesicles. They add a sugary fluid, which is basically an energy drink, to fuel the sperm for their journey. Then, the prostate gland adds a milky fluid that helps to activate the sperm, kind of like a starting gun. And last but not least, the bulbourethral glands release a fluid that lubricates and cleans the path ahead. And all of this brings us to the final stage, the last leg of the journey, the exit route. And this part of the system is so unique because it's actually pulling double duty. Back on our map, the final structures are pretty clear. We've got the penis and the tube that runs right through it, which is the urethra. And this is where the system's really efficient two-for-one design becomes obvious. The penis has two totally different jobs. For reproduction, its role is to deliver sperm, but it's also part of the urinary system, used to get rid of urine. And don't worry, there's a brilliant biological switch that makes sure these two things can never, ever happen at the same time. So what makes this all possible? It's this shared tube, the urethra. It's the final passageway, the one exit route that both semen and urine use to leave the body, just at different times. So now let's just zoom out for a second. When you look at the big picture, you see this isn't just a random collection of parts. It's an incredibly coordinated and interconnected system.
I mean, when you really break it down, the whole system is a marvel of biological engineering. It's basically just a cleverly designed series of ducts and little tubes, all working in perfect sync to produce, mature, and then transport these tiny cells on their all-important mission.
And this brings us to one last, really fascinating thought. This whole reproductive pathway we've just followed is physically linked to the urinary tract. They share the same exit. And that's no accident. It's a hint about how these systems actually develop together before we're even born. So it kind of makes you wonder, what does this super efficient shared architecture really tell us about the clever and sometimes pretty surprising path of our own evolutionary design?